everybody. Welcome to Digging Deeper Jazz. I'm Jeff Antoniuk. So, scales suck. I'm going to say it again. I've done a bunch of these videos, and from video number 2, I think it was, this is the stand that I take as a teacher. So many folks have this chord scale relationship approach to improvising. Here's a chord, here's a scale, use this scale over this chord, or use these couple scales, and and there we go. Let's go from there. To me, that is not the approach. That didn't work for me, and I came up with teachers, saying that the Jamie Aebersold books that I had way back when, that was the approach that was taken. It's not the best approach. I've worked with a couple thousand students now around the world, adult students, as most of you are, and that is not where people get traction. Where people get traction is by putting the scales aside as an improvisation tool. Now, don't yell at me. Of course, I practice scales every day for fingers and for evenness and for technique and for many other things. But to be improvising, they're not the best tool for a novice or an intermediate, where most of you are. So today I want to use the Phrygian scale as an example. The Phrygian scale, it's one of the modes, it's one of the Greek modes. It's even scary looking with the PH, but it's an F, and I don't know, I think it's the Greeks messing with us from thousands of years ago. But this scale, it's kind of weird looking. Look at the scale in the key of C. So it's got this really, cool, dramatic minor, but, with flats in different places. And for most of us, for me, for years, I'd play this scale and it's like, when am I ever going to use this thing? And I'd try to use it when I was playing So What or some other song with a minor tonality. Just sounded wrong. Not the approach. So here's the approach that we want to take. This is the overall thesis that I've got for you today, is that we don't proceed from scales. We want to work with licks and vocabulary. So what I'm telling you today, whether it's regarding the Phrygian scale or the major scale or anything else, I want you to be learning melodies made from that scale. That is the point. So we need to know licks, melodies, vocabulary, whatever you want to call it. And that is going to give us a toehold into understanding how to use this sound or this scale. That's where it's at. I want you to learn words. I don't want you to memorize various alphabets. That's kind of the way it is, okay? And then the next thing is when we understand the context that the chord is sitting in. That's a big deal. An E minor chord in this song and in this song could be very unrelated to each other. In the same tune, E minor here and E minor there could call for entirely different scales. And when you mix them up and you happen to play the wrong one in the wrong place, you sound wrong. Why did Dorian sound great here and not sound great there? Well, it's because you don't have the context of the chords. That's the important part. So you've had that experience, right? Why does, two different E minors? You get the example. Okay, so yes, so getting some help with this. So I'm going to give you a head start here, but this is where getting a mentor or a coach is so important. It seems like we could learn this stuff on our own. 10,000 of you are going to see this video, and I would say 50 of those, less than 1%, are going to be able to figure out where this scale fits and how to just intuitively use it. And that's great for you. Great. But man, I was not that guy, and most of my students are not that person either. Okay, so I played that scale for you, the Phrygian scale. And so I wrote it down in the key of E. We'll use that as the example. Here is the scale, item number 2, in the key of E. All right, so most of us are not going to find licks from there. We're not going to exactly understand how to get the sound of that tune. So let's do this. I want to look at the song, Have You Met Miss Jones? Super standard, classic kind of tune. And what I did is I wrote like a solo, a little etude over the first 8 measures of the tune. Let's look at it really quickly. Now, the way we would analyze this, the first measure, C major 7, is the 1 chord. Next measure, A7, is the 6 chord. Next measure 2, next measure 5. So the first line there is 1, 6, 2, 5. The next line I'm going to say is 3, 6, 2, 5. Okay, so now, right there, that ability to analyze a chord. By the way, that's what we do all day long at jazzwire.net. This week, we have 3 lessons. Every week, we have 3 lessons on 3 different tunes where we're really looking at the context of the chords, and then I'm giving people vocabulary to use within those chords. If you want to know more about Jazzwire, sign up for a free tour, and it's exactly what you need. It is. I built this for adult students around the world for us to work together in a community. It's not just kind of me giving you video lessons. It's way, way, way beyond that. I hope you take a tour and check it out. Okay, so now let me play this example, and we'll talk about it in just a second. So let's talk a little bit about the context of what's going on. Now, if you look in the third measure of the tune, I called it 1, 6, 2 chord, 5. There's a minor chord, D minor. Do we play Phrygian there? No. And again, I'm saying that thinking about these scales is not even really the right way to go, because even if you play the right scale, it's a scale. We need to be thinking about melodies. You need to get melodies into your playing. I don't want a parade of correct notes. I want melodies. Okay, now look at the minor chord in the 5th measure. What's labeled here is E minor. Now that is a Phrygian tonality, okay? But again, me telling you that and turning you loose, which so many of my early teachers did, or which the Jamie Aebersold books did, is said, hey, when you see this chord, play this mode. And 3/4 of the time, it wouldn't sound right. And you know, and I had some aptitude and I had decent ears and everything. It didn't get me there. What got me there was learning melodies and licks and ideas that fit in that spot. So if you look at that spot there in the 5th measure of example number 3, you do see that the building blocks for that scale are the E Phrygian scale, not playing F sharps and C sharps, which we may have played if we were thinking about the Dorian scale. Again, scales leading us astray. So we have to know the context of the chord. So why am I saying that that chord is Phrygian, yet the one 2 measures early, another minor chord, is Dorian? It's the context of the chord changes. We're not going to get into that today. But as I said, if that's something that is hanging you up, if you've had this question before, why does this scale sound great here but not here? What the heck? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so now you have an idea of where to play that Phrygian sound. Okay, and we can get much deeper into Phrygian and how it relates to the home key and all that, but that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is that I want you to come up with really great classic sounding melodies that teach you the sound that, by the way, is represented by such and such a scale with this name. Don't flip it around and go, here's a scale. I don't really know the sound, but I'm just going to play it a bunch and hope that I find some language. Doesn't work like that. Start with language, which teaches you the sound, which, by the way, can be talked about with this general scale. That's the way to do it. And I really encourage you to get a coach or a mentor to help you with this stuff. What takes you a year, we could do in a week or 2. Literally a week or 2. That's no hyperbole. So, yeah. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit on the way out. I'm just going to loop this A section of Have You Met Miss Jones and use a bunch of Phrygian ideas there. But that's not really how I'm thinking about it at all. I'm not remotely thinking about the Phrygian scale. I'm thinking about sounds based on that root and vocabulary that I've heard before. It's a big difference. Hope you enjoy it.